Welcome, one and all, to our discussion topic episode. We do these once in a while, usually to shuffle schedules around and that sort of thing, but we'd like to make sure you have content on the weeks where things aren't as normal as usual. I'm Scott Johnson. I'm here with all the regular crew. We got the two Brians. Hello, Ibbott and Dunaway. Hello.
Oh, hi. Oh, hello.
Boo. And also Randy Jordan, also right over there. Hi, Randy.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. Good day to
Good day.
you.
Good day. Good day.
Good day, sir.
Yep. I'm Scott Johnson, of course, and we are here to discuss one of our favorite topics, and that is horror movies. Why do we like them? Why are they significant in the film business? What are the ones we go to all the time? And what do we tell people who hate horror movies? Why? How do you explain yourselves when you see something like Evil Dead Rise, which is really gross and bloody, but you loved it, and you go to a friend or a family member and they're like, ew, a horror movie, do you like that? And you have to say
How
yes.
can you watch that?
Yeah, I run into that a lot.
I go through this all the time in my house. We watch, I call our TV the murder box because all it ever plays is true crime stuff all day long. And then I go, hey, can we watch a horror movie? No, that's gross. And I'm like, but we're watching murder every day. Can we just watch some fictionalized murder?
That's
only
funny.
real murders in the building.
Yeah. No kidding. That's crazy. I didn't know you. Well, I guess if you're in a household that likes the true crime but doesn't want any fake crime, I guess
I think it all comes down to the graphics of it. Usually most of the true crime stuff we watch and listen to is mostly descriptive, verbal, that doesn't get into any real visual or graphic details.
Yeah, but I know, I think we know you well enough to know that if you're going to watch a horror movie, you're interested also in plot and character and story, not just buckets of blood, right?
I'm always into special effects. You give me a Muppet, I am down. It's like, oh, we're going to watch a horror with a Muppet in it? Hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Wait, Child's Play? What else? What's another?
Oh my God, everything like Critters, everything during the 80s.
Your
was,
Goonies,
your
Ghoulies,
your Gremlins, Ghoulies, you name it. It has a puppet in it. The Puppet Master.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. So you don't mean
Yeah.
Muppets like actual, like, not Jim Henson
Freddy,
workshop
he's
Muppets.
got his big arms out there and he's being puppeteered.
Yeah. Or when he's eating the snake, or not eating the snake, but he's like a giant snake mouth eating the girl. That's kind of puppetry. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel you. You like practical. Okay. Well, this is a decent place to start. Back in the day when we were all up and comers,
Grown up.
it was mostly practical effects, almost entirely practical effects. These days, it's often a mix, but there's a lot of digital enhancery going on, with your special effects, with your whatever. But also back then, blood looked like strawberry jam, and today it looks like blood, and we've sort of come a long way. But I don't know. Can you, if you watch a movie that's mostly special or mostly computer aided special effects for a horror film, does that diminish the fun you're having because it's not practical?
It kind of, there's something physical and real about it. So the era Scott is talking about is what's known as like the slasher, the splatter horror movies where there's a lot of blood letting, there's a lot of just blood on screen everywhere, disembodiment, you name it, all that stuff. And that's kind of what I grew up on as far as horror goes.
Yeah.
And that's my jam. Special effects and stuff, they're fine, but I don't even think, I think one of the greatest benefits of making horror films is they typically can be done in a low budget manner, but they can elicit the same amount of response you might see in a big budget movie, with some really big special effects. You can very easily elicit an emotional response from some simple special effects or practical effects, whereas you might have to do something a lot bigger and a lot more expensive to really create that impact, like blowing up a building or blowing up cars. That's kind of expensive compared to just some simple makeup and blood.
Sure. And then ideas that take your brain places that that are scary.
Right.
That's the thing I look for. Is I don't care. Well, I do care about good special effects, and some of the bigger, sloppier, louder ones are fun. But what I really look for is like, oh gosh, 2022 was a great year for horror movies. If we're talking modern stuff, is amazing.
Okay, yeah,
stuff.
modern stuff. Yeah, more of the what is the more of the?
It was an incredible year. But like Barbarian was my favorite, and Barbarian was this crazy mix of genres, I thought, and mostly succeeded because it just knew how to create incredible tension, and whatever
Yes.
special effects were needed were not primary. They were there, but they weren't there. They weren't like the core or the crux of the story. And I think that's why I loved it. So my taste these days are different. When I was a teenager and I was rebelling against my parents, I can't wait to hear Randy's take on this, because I know he grew up in a home where none of this was allowed.
Right.
But I remember being like, "Oh, Freddy and Jason, blood everywhere, ha ha."
Slasher. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost like a rebellion aspect to it. Whereas today, I'm more like, yeah, I've seen that. Let's get some cerebral, let's do Hereditary, or let's do Midsummer. Or let's do something that's really going to take me somewhere that I'm not comfortable. I think I look
And
for
what
that.
what is the definition between? Because some of those I would say are thrillers with horror elements as opposed to horror movies
Right.
with thriller elements. Like Midsummer is such a there's some blood, there's some gore, people falling out of getting pushed off of cliffs and
Right,
bars,
right,
stuff like
right.
that. But I would almost call that a thriller with horror elements rather than a
this
true
is
horror film.
yeah. This is why I'd really prefer it if we would refer to them as scary movies. Because-
okay. Oh, I like
That's
that.
interesting.
Because it's
Sure.
easier. It's easier to draw a bright line between a movie that has, some horror elements, but is really not a scary movie, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
a thing you can actually do. There's a lot of movies out there where a character has a really bad dream and the dream is portrayed. It is not a horror movie,
Mm.
but if that happens repeatedly throughout the film, you can come away going, "Man, that scared me."
No,
And-
your definition is great because it takes us from when we were kids and the scary stuff was the stuff we saw versus now where we prefer the stuff we think, the stuff that we don't have to see on screen to imagine
Jaws.
Yeah.
is horrific.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good way of putting it. I think that is a good distinction. I still, though, it's almost like Ari Aster, I think is his name, the creator or the director of Midsummer and Hereditary. They are two of the most scary scary movies I've ever seen in my life. But they're not only are they not your typical horror movies, they're also not typical movies. Like he's almost making his own genre over there,
Yeah.
and it's hard to classify.
A24 has really brought their own kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's this whole new movement going on that's really interesting. Have you seen X yet?
Yes, the one where they're all filming a porn out in the countryside or
Right,
whatever.
right.
I've not seen
Right.
the prequel or
What
the
Pearl.
What is it
Yeah.
about last year? Like we sacked Nope. Nope was from last year.
Right, right.
There was a movie
Horror's
last year.
back.
It's not just
There's
back;
a movie
it's
last
just
year called
good.
White Noise that I'm saying you shouldn't watch. It's a Noah Baumbach movie. It's so freaking scary, terribly
yeah.
really Don't watch
Really?
White Noise.
Really?
Or,
Is that the reason you don't want people to watch this because it's scary, or is it not good as well?
oh no,
as being scary?
it's a pretty competent film.
Okay.
It's really good at being really scary.
Oh,
And
that
I really-
Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig deal. Yeah. I heard about this. I like Noah Baumbach movies. See, what happened last year? Last year's weird. It was like the culmination of, I don't know, everybody
So-
being locked up and writing scary shit during a pandemic.
Well, kind of like that. That's exactly what horror. If that's how it functions in our society, as far as I'm concerned, it is a release valve. It is a place for us to go to feel safe while also experiencing some of that horror and kind of addressing it, because we can't necessarily go directly to our all of our great fears because we're not good managers of that. And so we use entertainment, especially something like horror, to kind of address some of these bigger fears we have, and we can put it on screen and kind of make fun of it, or at least encapsulate it. I'm a big proponent of, if you have a fear inside of you, the worst thing you do is keep it in. When you speak it out loud and you say it, it loses a lot of its power.
Yeah.
And so horror films are kind of like that. We're in a safe space. We get to, kind of live out that horror that could be whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can, feel better about ourselves. We feel a little better.
I think this is you've tapped into something, because I think this is 100% what I like about horror movies and why I seek them out. And every day I'm like, what's a cool horror movie right now? I want to see it. And I think I do that because, unlike horror video games, which terrify me and I hate them, I only play them
because
with
it's
people.
happening to you.
Yeah, you're right.
Because-
I am in control
right.
of my destiny in those games. In those games,
Right.
if I F up, it's on me. If I die,
Yeah.
it's because I did something, whatever. Like having a direct role in how it plays out is
Right.
not my cup of tea at all. But when it comes to watching passively other people deal, even when I know they're being stupid or I'm like, that guy's going to get killed if he goes out in the forest or whatever, even though I know those things are coming, I'm like, well, what's happening to those people? I'm just an observer over here. And that observership makes it so I can explore these concepts and explore these fears that we all
Right.
probably have in some form without getting burnt. And people always say,
Right.
well, why do you like Mad Max so much? Or why do you like any of these other things? Same deal. These are not futures I want. I don't want to live in a wasteland where everybody kills
Right.
each other and fights over gas or whatever. But I want to watch other people do that.
Yeah.
do that.
Is there hope? And if it did play out, can I use that, that mind exercise, and can I make better decisions and that kind of stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know what it says about any of us if we believe that, but I don't know what it says about me. But I think
I don't play those games because I know I'd make worse decisions than the people
Yeah.
that I see in movies who split
feel-
up and stand in front of plate glass windows in their underwear. And,
We
Right.
we have definitely, one of the feelings that we've all experienced a lot of during the pandemic was our loss of control of things, and so everything seems a little bit bigger. And it's nice to go to horror and see some things that we can actually manage, that are scary and can control. And I think that's probably the reason why you're seeing this kind of little resurgence a little bit.
yeah. Are you Randy or Ibit? Do you have a recent? I don't know. What's your recent favorite? Like, what's one that really jumped out at you? Like,
Barbarian's the one that I remember most recently saying, that is what I like in a horror movie. Like, yeah, we get some gross out, like scary ass elements, and that just the visual of that hallway that gets dark way before you think it should. And that is a thing that just freaks me out anyway. And the enclosed spaces, that feeling being down in that basement. What is that phobia?
not claustrophobia. It's something else. It's like
Claustrophobia. Yeah,
is it claustrophobia? I thought it was a different kind of thing. But
No,
I could
it's- yeah.
smell that hallway. I swear.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, yeah.
everything about it.
See, you have a fear
Yeah.
of smells.
I
Like,
do.
There's definitely.
Yeah,
I do. Like
yeah.
when I see something like that, my first thought is that place reeks. That
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil anything, but the thing they discover down there, it's like that's
Yeah.
probably the worst
Oh.
thing ever in the
There-
world. Like, good lord.
There's a real fear. There's a real fear of old things, and I think it's very it's just built into us as humans that all of us have a little bit of fear of old things. I think because it's a protection mechanism to keep us from messing with old crap that maybe make us sick. And so I think Scott's more in tune to that.
I think that's
smell
actually.
thing.
I think that's probably true of most of our fears, right? It's all survival
Yeah.
mechanisms.
Yes,
and
all
I
survival
think
mechanisms.
So in my case, if I'm in a musty old place that smells like dead cats or something, my immediate inclination is get the F out of there. I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I could never be somebody that helps.
This is where death is.
I could never
Goodbye.
do Tina's job because she has to work. She has to walk into people's homes where they've been losing control of their bowels and stuff like
Yeah,
that. There are
yeah.
places that she has to rub Vicks Vapor Rub on her upper lip, like she's
Horrible.
like she's a medical examiner or like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
autopsy. You know.
Wow. Is it like
Eating a sandwich
hoarder?
while autopsying. Oh, this is
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding. But is it like hoarder type situations? Like
Some of them,
okay.
yeah.
That would just. I
Yeah.
don't think I could do it.
Some of it is, some sadly are dementia and Alzheimer's patients, and
see.
and
That's
just
my
people who
big fear.
don't have control, and
Yeah,
That's really
losing
rough.
my mind. That's a big fear of mine.
Yeah,
Yes,
nobody
mine
want
too.
that. Nobody wants to lose their.
And that's
their
and that's
thing.
what we've addressed a lot. And there's a word we've all learned over the last couple of years too, with gaslighting. It's like, am I crazy? Are you saying I'm crazy? I'm crazy.
So why do you think we're drawn? This maybe Randy throw in on this one. What do you think about the subgenre in horror, the found footage stuff? I feel like we got a weird relationship with that shit. I feel like.
It's interesting. That's a really fun way to go about looking at scary movies as having some prestige. So I linked you to this Paste magazine listicle, and that's what Paste magazine does, by the way. They do listicles, and it's really good.
Listicle.
Like it's a really good. Like some people took a lot of time to come up with what are the greatest 100 scary movies of all time.
Right.
And the very first, the number 100 film on that list is Blair Witch Project, which I get. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like when the question is, when you rephrase it, what makes a scary movie also a great movie? Like, well, and I want to ask each of you, like, give me your 2 or 3 greatest scary movies of all time. When you start asking that question, boy, found footage is a hard sell. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to make a found footage movie a great movie because it's trying to be
It's very
reality,
nature.
the reality TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of scary movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like if you look at this list of the top 100 scary movies, and you get up near the top of the list, there are real feats of filmmaking.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
like I was gonna say my favorite recent scary movie, which is now 6 years old. Can't believe it's 6 years old. Is Get Out by
Watched right here. Yeah.
Jordan Peele,
So good.
Mhm.
and we didn't sack Get Out.
Oh, we did. We did
Nope.
the other one.
We did
Yeah,
Nope.
no. So we said no.
Apologies.
Yeah. We did.
So-
Yep.
So Get Out comes in at 27 on this list, and this list, by the way, peters out in recent years because the way they approach it is you can't be one of the greatest of all time when we haven't had some time to think about it.
Right.
Right.
But number 27 on this list, that's pretty impressive for
Okay.
for Jordan Peele.
Especially when the majority of the top 20, 30 are stuff, things from the 60s and 70s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But to have
yeah,
a newer one that competes with all that is impressive.
Yeah.
yeah. So found footage feels like the opposite of greatness. But that's because found footage is designed to not include all the things that you use when you're making a great film. You know, found footage is not going to have great sound design, for instance. It's
Right.
it's going to have single microphone, or at least it's going to try to make you think you're hearing things from a single microphone.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting skill set because you run the risk of being too good of a production and having it look too polished, right? Like too much like it wasn't found footage, pretending to be found footage. But if you go too far the other way, it just looks like shit and it's not as compelling because you're missing music cues or all the things that usually make horror movies work. And so I think it's a really hard thing to pull off well. I think there's been a few that are good. My personal favorite is probably Quarantine. This came out in 2008.
Yeah.
It was Jennifer Carpenter from
Dexter.
Dexter, yeah, the sister.
Yeah.
She was in it, and it also is one of these movies that gives you an ending that is not, you're not happy at the end of this movie. There's no one made good at the
Much
end.
like the end of the real pandemic.
Yeah, kind of like that. And it's a rough one that I really think fondly of because I think they kind of nailed the balance. Because I think the balance is hard. I don't even think Blair Witch, in retrospect, really nails the balance very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a hard one though. So, found footage. I know it has its fans, and Wrecked 1 and 2 are well thought of. There's others, I guess. I guess the Paranormal Activity movies are all found footage, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like
there's
the.
a bunch. I mean, Cloverfield is
Cloverfield
a scary
is
movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I think
pretty
that does the found footage thing really, really well, even to the point where the stinger, or it's really not the stinger, it's the last thing you see before the credits, plays on that found footage aspect with something that's not part of the full found footage style of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you want to explore, you were talking about dementia patients and stuff, and how that in a weird way it's like real life horror, having to deal with that and help people with it and all that. There's a 2014 film I saw when I was subscribed to Shudder called The Taking of Deborah Logan. And the synopsis is: an elderly woman battling Alzheimer's disease agrees to let a film crew document her condition. But what they discover
And
is
then
that
forgets, and then agrees again.
yeah, but it says here, but then they discover it is something far more sinister going on. That movie left a little bit of a scar. That's a rough one. That's really, if you want to play with those fears of memory loss and
Yeah.
what it might mean, and then all that, that movie's pretty pretty damn good at freaking
It doesn't
me
make
out.
you feel any better afterwards. You're like, oh, yes, it's still going to suck.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't make you feel better. But that's the thing that I love about and I forgot his name, the Midnight Mass guy, the Irish name.
Yeah, Matt.
He's over at He did Dr.
Mike
Sleep.
Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan, thank you. I knew it was Irish.
Yeah.
I knew it sounded
Matt
Irish.
Flanagan. Yeah.
Mike Flanagan did such a different thing for me with all his work, but the first one I saw was Haunting of Hill House, was my real first exposure, not really knowing he was the director of other movies I'd seen. But when I'd seen Hill House, the series, he did this thing that just still to this day blows my mind, and he's done it with his other work as well, which is he can make me freak out, he can give me a really scary story, he can do all those things, and he's really good at those things, very intense, very good, but he also had heart in all of it had heart in it.
Yeah.
In a way that horror movies don't usually do it. They're very nihilistic. They're very like, nothing good's going to come of this. And instead, I really cared about these people and the horrible things they were seeing. I felt like I was more invested in them as people and characters having to deal with it and face it. Like, he's a magical dude. I don't know what he drinks in the morning, but whatever it is, keep going.
As long as I live, I will never forget the end of episode 5 of Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
I look forward to rewatching that series every 7 years. It's going to take some time before I can rewatch that series, because the end of episode 5 is so incredible. It's like nothing I'd ever seen or heard. It's mostly what you hear, what you're hearing.
I agree.
And I was like thinking about, like, again, coming back to this list of the top 100 scary movies of all time. We've sacked 4 of the top 5. And
What are they? List them. What do you got?
That's The Exorcist, The Shining, Alien.
We didn't do The Exorcist yet.
Oh my God!
I know it feels like we should, but we haven't. We need to get that in there, because I need to face.
We did one of the sequels though, didn't we, or no?
I don't think we've done any of those, as far as I know.
We just did that for
I know that as a kid, and I'm sure I speak for a ton of people, maybe even us, that movie left a real hole in my heart, and I need to see it again to deal with it. You know what I mean?
And even seeing it recently, like I've watched it within the last 10 years, and there's a couple added things that weren't in the original cut, like a little spider walk down the stairs and a face you see above the, when she's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh, that still freaks me out. It's such a well done.
I watched The Exorcist at the drive-in movie theater from the back seat because my mom went to see it and she just thought I was asleep in the back seat. So I was just 4 or something like that.
When gosh,
what year
that
was it when it came
ruin
out?
73.
73. Oh God. Okay, so we must have been watching or rewatching of it because it was just drive-in movie theater.
Yeah, back in the day, a movie would come out in 73 and then it would be playing at the drive-in 3 years later.
Yeah. So I was like 4 or 5. I remember it being like 4 or 5, sleeping in the back seat, woke up, watched some of it, said, I'm scarred for life. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
That was almost my experience with the Amityville Horror, and that ruined me for a long time as a kid. And I think that only the second time I ever watched that movie was with you guys for Film Sack, and looking at it, it's like, wow, this is so silly. However, there are still things in the movie that freaked me out, and I think it's playing off of those fears I had as a kid, as opposed to all the stuff I've seen now, and God, how there's no, that kind of stuff is so cheesy and special effects are so weak. But for whatever reason, I just tapped right into.
Are so weak.
They're weak. They have no realism.
When we were growing up, the slasher was really big. Some people listening here probably were really into the big, like the psychological and kind of stuff, like The Exorcist, which is more in the 70s, a little grittier. But you want to talk about silly movies, like the Atomic Age before then, where we're looking at like giant ants and giant anything, the Blob.
Yeah.
That was a real fear because we didn't know what was going to happen with after the atomic era. It was like, well, it's going to go on, but that stuff.
Yeah, there's this moment, and it's not a moment. There's like a decade when you have the Blob, the Thing, the Fly.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't guess that 2 of those end up becoming like renowned,
right.
Like it's just kind of shocking that the thing is usually top 10. It's I think it's number 5 on this list of the best scary
Right.
movies of all time. The Fly is at number 43, and they put both of them at number 43, which I think is really funny.
Oh, funny.
Mhm.
The original and the David Cronenberg version.
Oh,
And-
Cronenberg. We don't get into Cronenberg.
Cronenberg
Sure,
is, but see, he's got almost his own genre, doesn't he? It's not that
yeah,
not
he's
normal.
body gore. So it's
It's
just-
gross out horror.
Kind of. I mean, it's more like it's not even gross out. It's like I watched that one that newer one with
Right.
Viggo Mortensen. I forgot the name of the damn thing.
yeah,
but
yeah.
They all they slowly torture themselves, and it's how they get pleasure or whatever.
Yes.
It's a weird dystopic future thing.
That's like Hellraiser, right? Is that what they do?
But it's
Oh, yeah,
not.
give me more.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like a
right.
Hellraiser does its thing, and you easily go, oh, that's a horror movie with a bunch of gore in it, and it's torture porn kind of. You watch his thing, and you just go, oh, this is just really, really uncomfortable. Like,
Right.
I don't know how to explain it, but Cronenberg operates on a different level. That
Which
guy's so
David do you
weird.
prefer, David Lynch or Cronenberg?
Oh my
Ooh.
gosh, depends on what
Oh, wow.
movie we're talking about. I think.
If I could get David Lynch to tell a straightforward story, I would prefer him. If I could get David Cronenberg to stop making like a
Right.
guitar made out of skin, I would prefer him.
You would prefer
Yeah,
that?
right.
Okay. A guitar
That's a good-
made of
that's a good-
skin. That's good.
Yeah, because David Lynch is the thing he did just recently. Well, not even recently, but more recent than the original, Twin Peaks series, was this reboot on Showtime, like 8-episode reboot. And there is one episode in that thing that just genuinely freaked me out, where I had like a hard time sleeping, and I go back and I think about that episode so much, and I kind of want to watch it again, and I kind of don't, but
Yeah, yeah.
but I almost need like the closure of watching it after this much time has gone
right. You
by.
opened a wound and it needs
Yeah.
to heal.
Needs to
Yeah,
heal.
exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of David Cronenberg, I have added the movie Videodrome to our watch
yeah.
list.
Good one.
Sweet.
Uh,
Watch
Blondie.
Eraserhead. We need to do that too.
Oh, I'd love to do Eraserhead. It's not.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of audio in Eraserhead, but I'd still think
No,
we
that's
should
gonna be
do
a
it.
tough one. I've been
That might
curious
be,
if ever
maybe
do
we
it.
do that as a watch along, because the ones that don't have a
could
lot
talk.
of audio is a good one for us to. We
Yeah.
don't talk over a lot of speaking, and it's easier for not having clips and that sort of thing.
Right.
do
And
you
there's
guys-
all kinds of weird visuals, so we could definitely talk about the weird visuals.
Before we close things out today, I just was curious if you guys have a feeling about the proliferation of internet-based horror ideas. Like, there's a movie this year called Followers. It's actually reviewed pretty well, but it's like
I know what you're
instant-
saying, like
followers on Instagram, and then
movies
something-
that are done completely using internet technologies.
Oh,
that you're
I
talking
get it.
well,
about, like
combination even if it's just a movie where how the Net was this horrible thriller about the internet and they all know where I'm going, and it was just not very good.
Right.
But it's more like whether they use nothing but Zoom to tell the story, or
Yeah.
it's that inside of Zoom is a creature, or whatever. How do we feel
that-
about? I guess
that feels
it is our
found
modern
footage to
day,
me.
but do we have to have horror
Right.
movies with cell phones?
I
and
mean, the
freaking-
Ring isn't the Ring kind of like that with the videotape. Not really the videotape generation, because it came out so long after videotapes weren't a thing, but it still relies on
Yeah, that's a good point.
a time of technology.
That's a good point. It's I
Yeah,
guess
she ain't
it's just
crawling
the
out of my
time you're in.
4K TV is what you're saying.
Sure, and we are all, and we like to deal with the fears of progress, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever
That's
that
a good-
progress is. If the progress is technological, then we like to deal with.
Oh
what
yeah,
the
like
fears are
Megan.
around it.
Oh, that was so Bloomhouse. Oh,
Megan was
still need to
awesome.
see that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Megan was
So
great. Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
But I mean, my answer to that question is, please don't take away my Black Mirror. I feel like
Oh,
I
sure.
feel like Black Mirror is a series of movies, and some of those movies are great. Like USS Callister is great, and Nosedive
Okay.
is great, and Hated in the
Oh.
Nation is great. And those they all depend on high tech, modern internet, Wi-Fi,
Right,
connect social
right.
media. Shut Up and Dance is awesome. Like
Mm.
I love these episodes of Black Mirror.
Oh, they're so
it's-
good. And this year, and I love when it comes out. There always seems like the day one comes out, or the month one comes out. There's always a story that matches one of the segments, and that happened with that first one, that Jonah's terrible thing or whatever.
Joan is awful. Yeah.
Joan is awful.
Right on.
So good.
Yeah, and they immediately there's this contract from the studio saying we're going to use your AI likeness in perpetuity without giving you anything. Like, I couldn't believe how on the nose that was. That
Yeah,
just blew my
so
mind.
perfectly
Well,
timed.
and it combines a bunch of stuff, right? It combines AI and quantum computing and And of course there's like gross out stuff in that it's a movie. These are small movies. I actually feel like we're navigating our way into high tech as the basis of our scary movies pretty well.
Yeah.
I want to agree with you that when it's just people on a Zoom call and something happens and you see it on the screen and I don't know what happened to that person, it can be really tropey and repetitive and trite.
Too much like found footage for me. I mean, it's just the next phase of the found footage stuff. I mean, except you're watching it now. I don't know. Maybe downloaded the video. I don't know.
The other thing I've noticed is a lot of the most highly respected newer films, the ones like, even if you look at 2023's so far list of the top rated horror films, they're almost always foreign. Like we're lagging behind over here. They're like, this.
I think that stuff adds to it. Like would the Witch have been as scary if it felt like it was in modern times, or maybe not modern times, but in like a familiar American setting?
Well, I more mean these things are like all not English. There's like
like foreign films,
Spanish directors and all of that. Whereas the Witch was at least English. It's not that it's a problem.
Okay.
It's hard for me because I don't want to watch horror movies in subtitles. That drives me crazy in horror movies in particular. I don't know why. Maybe that's
horror
why
I think horror is more universal. So I mean, you don't need a lot of dialogue for horror usually. So I mean, all those things play into what you're talking about, which is more accessibility to audiences. And it's another thing I love about horror is the fact that you don't have to have a big name actor if you got a clever idea that speaks to people. You don't have to have a big budget to make a horror film. It's you can just have all of these great smaller filmmakers have an opportunity to really expand. Like Sam Raimi changed all kinds of stuff when he busted on the scene. And so horror to me is such a great entry level.
It's a great gateway for young filmmakers. There's this the number one rated Rotten Tomatoes horror film this year is one called The Bone Woman. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, so really highly rated, and it's made in Mexico or something, and that's fine. This isn't me going, it's a bad thing. We don't make our own good horror movies anymore. I just mean, subtitles in horror movies, I can't do it. I don't know why. It takes me out of it.
Good news, you have other options, right? Like Evil Dead Rise is a legit good movie.
Yeah, it's very
Scream
good.
6 is a legit good movie.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
Yeah.
There's like you're always getting options. This is like a genre that just it's like with infinite ammunition to fire. Like we're just going to keep coming. And sometimes it sounds like we're just reaching back in time and mashing things together. Like there's a new this new Russell Crowe movie called The Pope's Exorcist, and it just sounds like they just were like, I'm going to make the Poltergeist.
Right.
I heard that was good though.
Mashup.
I heard good things about that, and it was based on. I mean, all these Exorcist things are supposedly based on a real story, but that's supposed to be good.
That's what makes it scarier, right? If you put that at the top of your scary movie, based on actual events.
Yeah. I take it back. It's at 49%, but audiences like it 81. I don't know. I might need to see that. That seems like it might be okay. That was the last question I wanted to ask before we go. Has anybody got anything on the horizon where they're like, I'm just jonesing for this?
I'm always watching. I love watching. I have several services that just do nothing but transfer horror films, and just like when I feel like horror, I turn them on, see what's on.
So old stuff will always fill that void for you, I guess. Yeah. Anybody else? I can tell you mine. Mine is probably The Exorcist: The Believer. The reason I want to see this is I like this director, David Gordon Green. He makes good horror movies. And he also directed that Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, that amazing Nicolas Cage movie. So I want to see his take on The Exorcist. That's the one I'm excited about.
Yeah, for me, it's less about what's coming up and more about what I missed. Obviously, the Insidious. I haven't seen a single Insidious movie, and now I feel like I want to go back and watch all of those.
Those are pretty.
Was The Nun part of that, or The Nun was part of another series?
Nun was a spin-off of The Conjuring.
The Conjuring. That's it. That's another one I want to look at too.
Yeah, Conjuring movies are good. All those. What's that director's name? Not David Wang. He started with he hit it big with the Saw movies, and then he's gone on to make really great horror movies. I can't think of his name. Right. Anyway, Asian director.
The one
awesome.
I missed that everyone has said is spectacular is called It Follows.
Oh yeah, It Follows is great from a few years back. Fantastic.
I will be
Yeah.
watching that maybe a little later this year and get into spooky season.
Definitely.
I can't
Okay,
think of what
all right.
that. It follow. I don't know what that is. I'll look
It
that up.
follows.
Oh, that's good. You should watch. You should definitely. watch
It's
that.
like a thing that gets transferred from person to person, almost like The Ring,
Smile.
where
Yeah, Ring.
a smile is.
Oh, I
another one
loved
like that.
Smile. Loved
Yeah.
Smile.
Yeah.
Again,
As for the
2022,
future-
man. What a year for horror movies. It was so good. Anyway,
When we talk about the future, though, for me personally, I feel like I am just waiting for the next Jordan Peele movie. It is currently got a working title of Untitled Fourth Film Directed by Jordan Peele. That is if you actually, seriously, if you search Untitled Fourth Film Directed by Jordan Peele, that is the working title of his next movie. It is currently in production.
It'll your prediction. It'll be called whatever, so that you can go get out. Us? Nope. Whatever.
nice. I like it. It follows 95% of Rotten Tomatoes. You got me
So
interested. I'm going to check this
You
out.
guys-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I've
quite
been
the
told
ride.
so many times that it's it's not just scary. It's not just memorable, but it's a well-made movie. It's
It's
very
Intense.
The consensus says smart, original, and above all, terrifying.
yeah.
One of the modern horror movies that works on multiple levels and leaves you lingering for more.
I don't know if I lingered, but yeah.
Yeah.
I had to get back over to the Scream box on Plex TV so I could watch all the horror scary stuff. Yes.
Oh, it's got that Jake Weary in it. That guy's in a lot of horror movies, and he freaks me the F out. He's a scary guy. He's in Zombievers, a movie about zombie beavers.
Zombievers.
Zombievers?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
hilarious.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. That's our discussion episode about horror movies. Let us know your favorites. What gets you going? What do you want to see coming up? What's your favorite in the past? All those kind of questions. We'd love to hear your feedback. Either email us or leave them on the comments or wherever. Filmsack@gmail.com or filmsack.com for all your links. Do that today. That's going to do it for us. You know what? I'll do it like the old way. For me, for Brian, and for Randy.
scary.
That was the goal, is to see what he was going to do. Nicely done. We'll see you guys next week for more Film Sack.
Get more at frogpants.com.